Hello, everybody, and welcome to another one of these weekly Crowdcast sessions. This one is a little bit later than usual to accommodate all of the current transitioning teachers out there. We're here with Sara Stevick, and the topic tonight is how to transition from the classroom to instructional design. So Sara was a teacher herself for like almost a decade, and I guess towards the end there, you were like, it's time for a change, and you made the transition to instructional design. You're working at one of like the biggest financial institutions, so that is exciting. And I think the real reason we're here, and the reason everyone knows who you are, and the reason I've been seeing your name every week on LinkedIn is because you're doing so much to help teachers transition into the instructional design space. So I'm guessing you saw the grass is kind of greener over here. So now let's help bring all these teachers with me. So you're doing a ton of great work. You know, you're helping so many people. So to kick things off, I mean, we do have some great questions in the chat, and people, you can keep adding more to that Ask a Question tab. But maybe, Sara, can you tell us a bit more about your transition into the instructional design space from teaching?
Sure. Well, first off, thanks for having me, Devlin. Hey, everybody in the chat. Yay. I get really excited about these things. I love a good energy, right? So hi, I'm Sara Stevick. Like Devlin said, if you can't tell from all my gray hair, I was teaching for about a decade, and I loved it. I was the teacher that got to school at 6:30 in the morning. I taught all day, and then after school, I was a sponsor of clubs, and I coached color guard, and I tutored. And I mean, how many of us as teachers did all those things and worked until like 6, 7, 8, 9 at night, and then get up in the morning? And then, you know, we always get the, oh, but it's for the children. You're like, yes, I love the children. The children are fantastic, and they are. Unfortunately, what they don't tell you about teaching is all the other stuff besides teaching that just starts to get you down. It's, you know, there's times where you're not seen as a professional, even though you have so many degrees or you've gone through professional developments until it's coming out your ears and your eyeballs, where you could talk about all these different methodologies and ways to do all these crazy things. And yet when you try and tell them, well, based on our research and based on all these best practices, this is how we should be doing it. And they're like, oh, no, we know what we're talking about. And my child, okay, can't take hearing no. Because if you say no, that's not going to work. They need an A. Oh, well, then they should work for an A. So that's all to say. I did love teaching. I taught high school, anatomy and physiology and biology the last 4 years. I was in deaf education before that. I've taught everything from English to science to self-advocacy. My last teaching position wasn't ideal, and I accepted a position that I think the school and I both kind of knew, maybe this is not perhaps the best fit, but they needed a teacher, I needed a job, and I accepted it. Like 6 weeks into the year, I've actually had some medical things going on. I was out from October to February, and when I came back, I literally had to make the choice between keeping the function of my arm or keep being a teacher. And I chose my arm. I know it's shocking, and so but when I did it, I felt like a horrible person. I cried for 2 weeks straight because I left in the middle of the school year. I abandoned my babies. I had so many people, we need good teachers. Why would you leave? Why would you do that? And I'm not doing it to them. I'm doing it for me. And I think that's something that a lot of teachers need to hear, because sometimes it takes an event that it took a bone tumor and being physically at risk to get me to leave teaching. And, you know, even though I cried for 2 weeks and I was really sad, I have never once regretted it. And I think there's a lot to be said for that.
Wow. Yeah, I did not know that that's such a drastic thing is what caused you to leave the field. And then still with that, yeah, you still feel all of that guilt. And the whole time you were speaking, I don't know if you saw the chat, but just everyone in the chat is like, I feel this too much. The past teachers are like, I'm having flashbacks. So yeah, I think, and my mother-in-law is a teacher too. And I was like, I want to go into teaching. Like when I was graduating with my bachelor's, I was like applying to like teaching positions, like to teach English. I was like, he's so idealistic about it. And then hearing from my mother-in-law, I mean, not now my mother-in-law, like hearing these horror stories, I'm kind of like, yeah, maybe this isn't, this is the reality.
Got off good.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, yeah, there's this instructional design thing I've actually heard about. Like, let me do more research on that.
Well, and that's me too. Like, I had to leave teaching. I left in the middle of the school year, had no idea. I'd just come out of this traumatic surgery. I thought I was going to be a teacher forever. I decided that when I was 16 years old. I was 16 when I decided I was going to be a teacher. And I didn't know where my life was. It was laying on the floor. It was laying behind me and in the backseat of my car with crates full of all these binders and everything that I had scooped up from my classroom. And I felt like I couldn't do anything. What could I, a teacher, do? I'm just a teacher. And I can't tell you how many people I've talked to that have said the same thing is, I'm just a teacher. I'm just a teacher. No, you're not just a teacher. You are a teacher. And that's that as much as like, oh, it's so superpower. It is a superpower because if you can teach something, that means you can learn something to the point of understanding in a way to break it down and teach it to somebody else. And there's all types of teachers out in the world, and instructional designers are just another form of that. But you know, as far as leaving in the middle of the school year, I know there's some chat about that in the chat. That is something that we're told if you leave, then we're going to take your license, we're going to fine you, you'll be blacklisted, you'll never get another job as a teacher ever again. It's never an enticement to stay. It's always a fear that they instill. And the truth of the matter is I've had about 6 or 7 teaching gigs offered to me since I've left teaching. Didn't seem to phase them one iota that I left in the middle of the school year. But so I just started looking into instructional design and I was like, I can do this, you know, like I've done this before. And you have like that little monkey on your shoulder saying like, you can't do this, you can't do this. And all the people around you are like, but you're a teacher, you're a teacher, you're a teacher. So what? Because I was a good teacher, now I'm going to be a good instructional designer. Watch me.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest part is that it's that confidence in getting that. There's definitely things that you have to do in order to make this transition. It's not a lateral transition. And I want to emphasize to everybody who is interested in making this transition, it's a lot of work, but it's not more work than staying up till 2 a.m. grading. It's not more work than using all of your weekends for months on end to do lesson planning and researching best practices and going to PD and worrying about little, Susie or Johnny, if they're getting enough to eat or, because all that follows you home, right? So there's some things that I really do tell pretty much anybody who's interested in leaving teaching and moving on to something else. First thing that you really need to do is really decide what you want to do. Instructional design is totally my jam. I love it. Why do I love it? Because I like to create things. I like to figure out, okay, this is what's missing. How can I fill that gap? What cool tools can I use to make that? And what makes it most effective? How do I get it to my learners, right? Like, that's so exciting to me. That is not every teacher's favorite part. And I think that's important to think about when you're looking to get into something new is write out a list of all the things that make you tick. Do you like to create? Do you like to work with kids? Like, what drew you to teaching in the first place? What are the things you want to leave behind? And what are the things that you want to carry with you? Because there's so many different things. Laura Hoyer, she's awesome. She has a list of 89 different careers that teachers can go into, and she does offer it for free. So definitely check that out. But once you have your list together, once you've determined, hey, yes, instructional design's for me, how do I do that? Well, first off, you got to fill your knowledge gaps. That's always the first big step. Okay. You can do this in several different ways. Personally, one of the biggest reasons I do what I do is because when I was looking to get into this, everything was like, yes, for the low price of $20 million. And I'm like, I'm a teacher. Where do you think I'm getting this dough? Because it's not from my bank account. It's just, if it's for free, it's for me. And so that's kind of like my motto in life. So LinkedIn Learning, you can sign up, 30-day free trial. You get as many LinkedIn Learning courses as you like. If you just type in instructional designer at the top, there's lots of different paths you can take. YouTube, I mean, I happen to know of a couple individuals. One of them is named Devlin Peck. He has a couple really cool YouTube videos on there. You should check him out. Have you heard of him? He's pretty good. But yeah, he's you're awesome, of course. And Kara North has some amazing things out there. There's so many things for free on YouTube, on LinkedIn Learning. Even after those 30 days, you can get it for free. Talking's hard sometimes. You can get it for free through your local library. Mm-hmm. You could also do stuff like Coursera. All these are going to be cheaper. You do not need a certificate or a specific degree in instructional design to be an instructional designer. Only 46%, okay, of instructional designers have a certificate in instructional design, and only 16% have a degree in instructional design.
Wow.
Yeah. And those
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, those are statistics from ATD.
Wow.
So everybody else, it's experiential, right? And teachers have a lot of experiential things. If you're showing that you're filling in your knowledge gaps, you have a portfolio, which we'll get to in just a second. If you have your portfolio that basically lays it on the table and says, you can't say I can't do this because I'm literally showing you that I just did it. Yeah. It's like, but with all that, I know that for teachers, this is a hard thing to let go, because for teachers, it's all about your pedigree. It's about what degrees do you have, what certificates do you have, what learning, I get that, not a problem, but that's expensive. And you don't have to do that here. If you did want to do that, I will drop a couple things into the chat for you. The first one is a list of 41 different instructional design courses that you can take, ranging from free all the way to master's programs. If you really are thinking of going through a formal learning program, I highly recommend a YouTube video by Kara North, where she goes over how to decide if a master's program is right for you. But you can really apply all those principles to any type of learning program. My biggest thing for that would be to say, if you're looking to fluff your resume, don't waste the money.
Nope.
Because a lot of those courses aren't going to mean much to the corporate world unless it's like through ATD, which won't give you the practical application that you really need. Or they're going to be like the master's programs that can be hit or miss. There's a couple really good ones. I know the University of Maryland does one, MicroMasters, and it costs $1,067. I've looked into it a few times, but I've heard really good things. So, if you're looking to get the skills, that's another thing. I know, Devlin, you offer a fantastic boot camp with a lot of great practical application skills. Anything that you can leave with something that you built, that's going to be great. these programs that are saying, oh, learn Articulate in a day. That's not real. I'm sorry, that's not real.
No.
Now you can learn the basics in a day, absolutely.
Yes.
But to really get your hands dirty in it, it's playtime. It's all playtime. I'm going to drop another link in the chat. This is for the Nova Ed 5-week learning experience design course. It's completely free. It starts in June. So if you haven't signed up yet, please sign up. It's awesome. And it's Jiminy Crickets. What's that word?
Jiminy
Crickets. Can you tell as a teacher, Jiminy Crickets? But it's HRMS certified, I think is the acronym for it. But so you do get a certificate, and it's a free certificate. Anyway, so that's the first step. Fill in your knowledge gaps, however you choose to do it. Pick for free because it's free. Or pick really good talent. Just saying.
There's so much free stuff out there, like you're saying. I mean, that's like the whole purpose with my YouTube channel. It's like what were my biggest takeaways from like the master's program I did? Because it was helpful, right? Like maybe 90% of it, I was like, I don't want to be doing any of this stuff. But like 10% of it were like really helpful takeaways. Then now I'm like, let's use those takeaways and turn those into YouTube videos for all the people who aren't spending 20 plus grand on a master's program. So it did help for like creating this content, because I remember those like aha moments I would have in class. But yeah, and then just like the community aspect too, right? Like you can learn so much just like being on LinkedIn in these communities, in your free community. You do like webinar series, right? And you actually like dive into some of this stuff for free. We haven't even started talking about that. I'm sure you're going to get into it. Like you're making this very easy for me. I'm just like sitting back. I'm like, nice. Yeah. Let's look at these links.
Oh yes, that's a good link. Yeah.
So
yeah.
I'll let you keep going. Yeah.
I'm so sorry. I'm a chatty Cathy, there's a reason I was just so good at that preach and teach. And when I sit through it, I'm like, oh, is it over yet? But when it's me, I'm like, what? Where'd the time go?
No, I think you're very engaging, and everyone feels everything you're saying. So yeah.
Thanks, friends in the chat. Yay. So, I do see Shira, for the email address, you can't use a Gmail address, but if you have your own domain name that you have an email with, that should work. If not, there is a gentleman who runs it that I will have. I feel so bad. I forget his name, but I will give it to Devlin. I'll put it in the comments of the original post for this, so that we can get you into that. But there is someone you can email, and he'll manually put you on the list. I feel so bad. I forget his name.
Sorry, I missed what you're talking about.
This has to do with the link for the Nova Ed.
For Nova Ed. Okay.
In order to sign up for it. Yep. Nope. Thank you for helping me clarify. So you got to fill in your knowledge gaps. This is very important because you don't want to be fishing with the wrong bait. Teachers out there, if you've ever had somebody come in who wasn't in a teaching position before, no teaching background, and they're like, but I'm a math expert. You're like, that's cute. But there's things, I mean, you wouldn't say that, but you'd say, well, I appreciate that, but there's things about teaching, there's nuances to it to actually make it effective, right? And if that math person had gone through and learned about all those things and then came in and they said, oh, well, I'm a math person and I know all this stuff. Like, I can do this. Okay, but can you show me that you can do it? That's the difference. If you go into this, let's say you're that math person, right? And you say, well, I have a background in math, but I have been researching X, Y, and Z, and I can see how it applies to what we're doing through A, B, and C, and I'm excited to learn more. That's the attitude you got to go into all this with. If you come in like, they're going to say, thank you for your time. There's the door. it's really, that's right, Thomas. You should just start telling that to your SMEs. That's cute. Go ahead, sit down now. No, don't say that to your SMEs. That might not go over so great. But no, that's something that's really important, because growth mindset is everything in this field. It's constantly evolving, constantly changing. And if you come in with, well, I have all this experience, that's great. State it like a fact. Don't state it in a way that might be misconstrued as limited in perspective.
Yeah.
If you will.
Or like entitled some way to like, I'm perfectly qualified for this because of that. But I mean, like the hiring manager survey I did, there were like these open response questions, like what else can an instructional designer do to stand out? And such a big percentage of those referenced basically a growth mindset. They're like, I want someone who's willing to learn, someone who's like flexible, who can adapt to our team's needs. So yeah, I think that's definitely something good to emphasize. And still with, this emphasis on like e-learning, especially right now, like they do want people who have some of the skills that they'll need in the online environment. And I know teachers aren't using Articulate Storyline unless they are trying to develop their ID skills.
Right, exactly. And that's a perfect segue, which is not spelled Segway, by the way, in case anybody was wondering how to spell segue. It's not that. If you're talking about the little like mall cop segues.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's something I learned recently. Don't judge.
Honest mistake.
Honest mistake. It's fine. I spelled it phonetically. It's fine.
Yeah.
I was wondering why I kept capitalizing. That's right, Amanda.
Because it's like a brand. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's a brand. So that brings me to my second part of filling in the knowledge gaps, right? You got to learn the tools of the trade.
Yes.
The two biggest ones that I would say are you have to learn a comprehensive authoring tool. I highly, highly, highly recommend Articulate Storyline 360, especially for teachers, because we lived, ate, and breathed PowerPoint for how many years, right? It's a very, very similar setup, and you get a 2-month free trial. There are other ones. Adobe Captivate is another one. It is a little bit cheaper, but the learning curve is steep. If you are not familiar with Adobe products, you're already going to have to learn so many other things. Hold that off, okay? I would really recommend the Articulate Storyline 360. And also video editing software, so Camtasia or Filmora is a great free option, and Filmora, their company recently came out with a more comprehensive video editor that is free as well. So after you've kind of filled in your actual methodology content gaps, right? Like what's a needs analysis? What is Kirkpatrick's 4 levels? What are the models of ID? As you learn about these things, you're going to be like, psh, this is what I do. That's great. Every time you see something or learn about something that you're like, oh, well, I do this and that, write it down, because that's going to be things that translates into your resume, right? Because that's step 2. You got to tailor your application documents. When I left teaching and I was starting to apply for things, I took my teacher resume and I'm like, all right, I'm going to revamp it. I added my most recent teaching experience, and then I put a whole bunch of different titles under my name, and I sent it out. I applied to like 50 to 60 jobs like that. And I'm like, I don't understand why I'm not hearing back. Well, if you're saying that you're a teacher / instructional designer / architect / neuroscientist, it just doesn't play over well.
Yeah.
So for whatever role that you decide you're going for, you need a resume specific to that role. Mm-hmm. And this is to show interest, and it's to show that you're a serious applicant and you took the time to research their company, you took the time to research the role, and you can execute it. When you do these blanket applications and these blanket resumes, it really reads insincere, and it's not going to get you the results that you want. So you got to have a good resume. You got to do LinkedIn. That's not something teachers like to do. I signed up for LinkedIn like back in like 2012, I think, and I didn't touch it until I left teaching again. But LinkedIn's amazing. Connect with all the people. Please connect with all the people, except for the creepers. Don't connect with those ones. But all the other people you should connect with, because you never know where your next opportunity is going to come from. So you need your resume, you need your LinkedIn profile, and it needs to be optimized. So it can't just say, I'm a teacher aspiring to be.
You need to use those keywords. Recruiters saying on LinkedIn all day, searching these keywords. Yeah, have your portfolio up at the top.
They don't have time for aspiring. They need people who are ready to own that title and get into it. If you have filled in the knowledge gaps, if you have learned the tools, if you can do everything an entry-level instructional designer can do, you can say you're an instructional designer. You cannot say that your previous work experience was in instructional design unless it was. That's the difference. There's a difference between the now and your past work history. Okay. Never, ever, ever lie on any of these documents. That is not a good thing to do. But if you think about it, when you were like, for all the teachers in here, when you were going for your first teacher role, did you say, oh, student? No, you said teacher. I'm a teacher, because you had gained the skill set. You got the degree. In our case, we had to get the licensure, but you don't need that for instructional design. Okay. Can we answer this question in the chat real quick?
Which one?
The one about your hair. Does your hair ever move to your right side?
Does it ever move to my right side? No, like unnaturally. Like if I force it.
It's your calic?
I guess so. Yeah.
That was a great
question.
I
could force it to the other side, but I know. Goes to the left.
It's part of your brand. It's good.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. It's the branded hair part.
The branded hair. You know, you can get the Fabio wave. Like, just don't ride the roller coaster, because his nose is never the same after that bird. It just wasn't.
Yeah.
Poor Fabio.
Okay. We've gotten quite derailed, huh? I think Matt's trying to continue the hair discussion. But okay. Back on track. Good stuff
pull it back. So you'll also need a portfolio. Now, a portfolio is something that takes time to develop, and it should be your best work samples. It should be anywhere from 3 to 5 featured items, and it should be what you're capable of now. Don't put up stuff from like years ago, because that's not going to be what is your skill set now. Also, the stuff from teaching is a great starting place, but it's not ready-made for your portfolio, because there's things as teachers that we just didn't do. We didn't focus on all the crap. If you were to read Robin Williams, the Non-Designer's Design book, which I highly recommend.
Oh, yeah.
But she has this acronym called CRAP, which I just love. We didn't think about contrast or repetition to make sure all of our boxes are in the exact same place, or all the fonts are the same, that everything is in relation or aligned with everything else, right? So as good as your stuff for teaching was, we didn't have the time to really design it graphically, right? We designed it for efficacy, which is great. But instructional design's pretty much 50-50 for that. They want it to look really good, and they want it to be very effective. So you would definitely have to take that and switch it up. So once you get all your application documents ready to go, then you can start applying. You can start applying before that, and that's your prerogative if you want to. I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to be a very rough road if you choose to do that. Yeah. And it's going to be a little disheartening, because you're going to get a lot of no's. You're going to get a lot of no's either way.
I say it's like playing the lottery, like applying like without a portfolio and without like doing all the stuff you're saying. It's like maybe you'll get lucky, but you're probably just going to get discouraged. Like your time would be better spent, your time and energy would be better spent on like preparing sufficiently, showing off these skills, because your response rate is going to be way, way better if you have those things.
Absolutely. And Kira, you know what? I needed this conversation back in February when I was starting to apply, and it was just really frustrating. But if you put in your legwork in the beginning, it's going to make that back end so much easier, because once you start applying, then you got to start really figuring out how to interview, because you have to go in and connect the dots for them. You can't just go in and say, oh, well, I'm a teacher, so I can do this if you give me a chance. You have to say, well, I know that I can design instructional courses because I have designed 11 different instructional programs with over 250 plus micro learnings, which all included different interactive components such as learning simulations. And right, we do that, but we need to connect the dots for them so that it's very apparent.
This is
sorry. There's a checklist.
Oh yeah, I shared a video about like visual design principles in the chat. It goes over like the ones in the book. Because yeah, I second that. Like how your materials look is going to have a huge influence right now, especially when things are like getting more competitive. We're visual creatures. We're gonna have some first impressions based on how your site looks. And you don't need to be like this like amazing graphic designer. It's like these core visual design principles that as you practice with them more and more, yeah, it's quite simple once you can see them.
Yeah, I love that analogy that Robin gives in her book about the Joshua tree. She's like, I've never seen that funky looking tree before. And then she walks outside and there's literally one in almost every yard in her neighborhood, right? It's like when you're aware of it, then you can fix it, right?
Yeah.
And honestly, for a graphic, like some tips and tricks that I did to help up my graphic design game, other than reading that book and like watching YouTube videos and all that stuff, I go on like Canva and I go on Visme, Visme, and I look at their designs and then I recreate it in slides or PowerPoint so that I can actually feel and see how they're creating different looks. And so I can understand it better. It's just getting my hands dirty with it.
Yeah, right? That is a really smart approach. Rebuilding things that you think look nice, trying to just recreate it. That's a really good way to hone your eye for these things. So that's not why I stopped you. I stopped you because you're mentioning something that is like so important, I think, especially for teachers, because so many of the things they are doing on a daily basis do kind of transfer well to the instructional design space, but it's how you talk about those things. So you gave such a great example. It's like just those little switches in language. It's like, okay, this person is actually really qualified for what we need them to do here. And I know I added a question like that, like in the queue. So I don't know if you have a couple more examples like on the top of your head about like, this is what I did every day as a teacher, and here's how teachers might talk about it. But here's how we can talk about this in an interview or online on a resume or something.
Sure. So there's a couple keywords that I really strongly suggest not using. One of those is the word teacher. And it's not because teacher is a bad word. It's just because it comes with this automatic subconscious bias for a lot of people. So use the word educator instead. Students, I don't use the word students, use learners, participants, audience, everyone. Yeah. Anything related to age. Look, it's great that you were an elementary school teacher and you taught grades 2 through 5. That we don't need that.
Nope.
Instructional designer, people who are hiring for that, they don't need that. They just need to know, can you make stuff? Okay, great. Anything, if you've ever taught any professional developments, led any professional development seminars, if you've had a student teacher, if you have taught other teachers how to use technology, guess what? That's a train the trainer event that you led using adult learning principles. Don't know adult learning principles? That's okay. There's a YouTube video for that. Also LinkedIn Learning for that. It's stuff that some of you would find very familiar, like chunking, visuals, making it timely so that they can apply it right off the bat, right? It's stuff that you as an adult would be like, yeah, I'd like that in my training. Or even you as a kid, a lot of these things are what kids use too. There's a lot of newer articles out about the difference between pedagogy and andragogy that are fantastic. And it's true. People learn the same way. People learn by doing, experiential chunks. We need time to process. We need time to get our hands in it, right? So it's boiling it all down to just the main elements. Another thing, you don't have state standards in the corporate world. We have business goals and objectives. Guess what? Education, you best bet is a business, because they would drop you like that if, there's any type of cuts or anything like that. So really those state standards are your business's goals and objectives. You're trying to meet those, right? And how do you do that? You design courses or instructional programs. We don't do lessons unless you're applying for a higher ed position. If you're applying for a higher ed position, some of the ed terminology does translate, like curriculum, that kind of stuff.
Designing learning experiences, that could be another catch-all.
Yeah,
That's
design learning
right
experience. Yeah. Or learner solutions.
True, solutions. I like that.
Anything scenario-based. I mean, teachers do scenario-based all the time. That's a huge thing that we do. Yes. Gamification. Hey guys, have you made your Jeopardy game? Your little Kahoot? Gamification.
Yep.
But so those are a few ways that you can translate some of those. I did see a question floating in the chat about resume examples. Ann Lopez, who's part of Teaching a Path to L&D, which I assume we'll get to.
We need to, yeah.
She's coming up with, she's working right now to compile some great resume examples from former teachers who are now instructional designers. My resume will be part of it. Heidi Kirby's, nice. A couple others. Yeah. So it's all going to be in there. And I also have 3 great webinars specifically on resume writing on my YouTube channel. So definitely feel free to check those out. The second cool tool besides Canva is Visme, Visme. And you get to create 5 for free, but if you delete one of the 5, you can make a new one. So I just have it open, I recreate it, and then I delete it. So if there's anything that I know, it's how to be thrifty.
Yeah.
I'm so glad to hear that, Shira. Yay.
I see Matt is volunteering his resume as well.
Yeah, would love to have it. If you guys have a resume that was successful, please send it on over. And we'd love to put that into the compilation that we're making.
That would be helpful, very helpful.
Yeah, so those are the 4 steps. I'm going to drop the checklist for those 4 steps again. And I do, like you said, Devlin, have webinars that go over all of those.
And all those webinars are on YouTube?
They're on YouTube. Yep.
Okay. So what is the name of your channel, or can you share that link with us as well?
In fact, I will share that link only because Crowdcast is getting mad that I already shared a link.
Oh.
Womp, womp, womp.
Okay.
Sorry, Crowdcast. So my YouTube channel is Teaching a Path to L&D, and which is the same as the volunteer initiative that we started. And so, did you want me to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. Before we move on, just one more thing about the language we were using. I've seen some teachers talk about just some parallels between the analysis part and the evaluation part as well. So about collecting data to better respond to learner needs and stuff like that. Using that kind of higher level ID type of speak when really it's you're responding to your class.
Well, it's more than that too. So when we do what teachers call a pre-test, that is really assessing the learner's individual need to make learner-centric solutions. But when we're talking about a needs analysis, that's really what is done on that higher level. Like they look at all the data across the current performers, right? And then they identify, oh, they're not doing this, they're not doing this. And then, so it's a little bit different. So that in that respect, it's really kind of like how we take standard test results, right, from the standards of learning, and we look at those results and we're like, oh, we really need to focus in on these 4 things next year in this content area. That's a needs analysis, honing in on that to those are the behavioral changes you'd want to see. And then to make it learner focused, that's when you would do pre-test to make sure that you are even further refining your instruction to the learner themselves. And then at the end, when you assess them again, you do the formal assessment, you compile that, you iterate your, we call it design iteration. That means you changed your lesson so that it doesn't suck so bad the next time.
Yes.
And but all of that, and then we push it through, like we get feedback from the learner, we get feedback from the formal assessment, we push it through and present that to see the behavioral change. And that's when we start getting into Kirkpatrick's 4 levels.
Yeah.
And if you haven't learned about Kirkpatrick's 4 levels yet as a teacher, that's one of those knowledge gaps that you'll definitely want to fill in. Oh, a good question. Why did I decide to become ID in corporate as opposed to higher ed? Well, when I was a teacher, I made millions of pennies. And while that was not lucrative, my corporate job, it pays real well. And I'm very excited about that. I have so many pennies, all the pennies. They're just like, make it rain pennies everywhere.
Maybe dimes now.
Maybe even dollar bills, right?
True.
It's so exciting. But so that was a big part of it. I wanted to be in the corporate world. I was ready to move away from the education sector and really be seen as a professional. It's sad that that's what it took, but from this side, I feel like I can help so much more because I'm not in it anymore. I feel now like I actually have a chance to be an advocate for teachers.
Yes, and great segue because you're doing a great job at it. And yeah, you literally have this entire like grassroots volunteer organization dedicated solely to helping teachers transition into the instructional or into L&D more broadly, but maybe mostly instructional design. So yeah, I can talk about that, but maybe you would be better suited to. So just, let us know, what is this volunteer org all about and how can we get involved?
Yeah, sure. I'd love to talk about that. So back in November or October, I posted something on Facebook in a Facebook group. A teacher had said, I just went out. I'm ready. And I said, well, you could do instructional design if you have any questions. I recently switched over. And at that point, I'd helped 1 or 2 people, on their journey. And I was bombarded with all these messages like, oh, help me. And I was like, okay, well, I can't meet with them all one-on-one. So I'll get them all in a room. And I'm like, oh gosh, well, if they're educators, I'm going to need a slide deck because if not, it's just not going to go well. So I made a slide deck, and that one slide deck turned into 8 slide decks and 8 webinar series, which you can watch them all on my YouTube channel or come live we run them twice a year in the spring and the fall.
Okay.
And it's all about transitioning and making that journey and supporting each other. And from that, we started a LinkedIn group, and I just had people coming out of the woodwork like, hey, I like what you're doing. Do you need help? I'm like, yes, yes, I would love some help. Thank you. And so Heidi Kirby, Aaron Chancellor, that's my main tripod. But, without them, there's no way I could have done any of this. Heidi really helped get the group going And
Nice.
and then from there, like we've added so many, like Cheryl Oberlin, and we have Ann Lopez. Ann's brought so many great things too. Like she runs our job board. We have Jennifer Burry who does our book club. We have a Slack
Wow.
channel. Like it's becoming a thing.
Yeah.
And all we ask is that pay it forward, like
Yeah. So,
it only takes a few minutes to be kind to
and this
someone.
is all free. I know I mean, not to say everyone's gonna like be meeting with you, but like I know in the past, I don't know how often you still have time to do this, but I know like you're meeting with people, like the
Oh yeah.
volunteers are like meeting with people like one
Yeah, I'll
on
drop
one.
that link in the chat. We do have free office hours, and it's
Wow.
mentoring on. You can do meet and greets with us. We help you with your resume. We help you with your portfolio. We'll do mock interviews with you. We will
Wow.
all for free. You
All
can
for
sign up
free. Like
for as many as you
this
like.
is amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And our group drop, a project in the group and say, hey, I'd love some feedback. And we try and get to them. Recently it's been a little bit more hectic. I know myself and Heidi have been going through some work things. But
Yeah.
hopefully
You're
that'll
working a full-time job on top of all of this.
yeah.
So
And
yeah.
I have a toddler,
Wow.
just a few things going on,
Yeah.
And the name of the group is Teaching a Path to L&D, and I will drop that into the chat as well.
Where should we, if we're going to send people to one place, like to stay connected to all of this, where would that be? Because I can add a link right beneath the video stream.
Oh man, that's a good. The website's so comprehensive. It has a lot, but I think we talk mainly about like current things, what's up and coming, really in our LinkedIn group.
LinkedIn group.
Yeah.
Okay, and the website is teachlearndev.org. So pretty
Yes.
easy to remember to go to, so everyone can open that up. But if you have a link to the LinkedIn group, we can
There's
share
the
it. Oh,
LinkedIn group.
perfect. So I'll add that link beneath this video, and then if anyone's watching the recording, they'll see that as well. So
And we have some really cool stuff coming up. We have interview workshops with Heidi Kirby, who's a hiring manager. She's going to be
nice.
running those webinars. We're going to have some stuff with just some beginner articulate stuff, beginner Camtasia stuff, some PowerPoint stuff. Just adding as much as we can. The biggest thing that we want people to know is that you're not alone and that you're loved and we care about you. You're worth investing in. You've given so much for so long of yourself, and it is truly our honor and our pleasure to be able to give that back to you in any way that we possibly can. So we're always looking to just do anything. We take suggestions. You have an idea, you want to run with something, you need a platform to do it, come on into TPLD. I will never try and take your stuff, I promise. Ask Anne. She has her stuff. It's all says it's by Anne, and and that, like, we want to see you shine.
Yeah.
And
that's like what makes this field so great, like the paying it forward aspect. Like, because when I was getting it, I felt so supported. There were content creators that like had all these guides about getting into the field and creating your portfolio. So naturally, as I like and like on Reddit, I was like always asking questions, and people were helping just for free. So I was like, as I like started to get the hang of things, I'm like, yeah, how can I start giving back here? So I think it's great what you're doing, like for the industry as a whole, because obviously people on the other end of that support, yeah, it's like, okay, I got so much help coming in. How am I going to give back now? So I'm sure everyone here, if you've spent any time in these like instructional design communities, like you see how helpful people are and how invested people are in like your success. And I think that's, like why this field is so great. So
no, I 100% agree. Like I've never seen anything quite like it. And we hear, oh, the ripples you make, but here you actually get to see that, and it's so profound, and it's inspirational and inspiring, and it just breathes life into you. And if you're a teacher and you've made your way out into the world and you want to come be a mentor with us, hit myself up or Heidi and all that jazz. But yeah, there's definitely, we have our YouTube channel, we have our Slack channel, we have our LinkedIn, we have we do all the things.
All the things, all the ways to connect.
Yeah. I did want to talk a little bit about, and I know we touched on these things here and there, but I did see some questions about portfolios and what do I put into my portfolio, right? So I'm going to drop a couple different links into the chat. The best things that you can make are things that you see a need for. So if you're like, man, I wish there was something on this, make it. That's your gift, right? This is Dana Kokalis, I think is how you say her last name. She does several articles where she gives different design prompts. There's also godesignSomething.co. This is an excellent resource as well to get some examples and inspiration. Christy Tucker, she has a huge list of 30 ideas to be exact for portfolio examples. There's also e-learning heroes, and don't knock the Pinterest. There's actually Pinterest. Yeah, Pinterest now has ideas for making e-learning. And then on our Slack channel, we also have a channel specifically for design challenges. There's 5 of them up right now, and they're just
nice. Smart. I've been wanting to do something like that, but that's really cool that you're doing that.
Well, you can always jump in our bandwagon. We
True.
can share. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, great resources. Kristen Anthony made Go Design Something. Kristen was one of the people who, when I was getting into the field, they were like my idol. Like, so much helpful stuff for free. I was like, I want to be just like Kristen Anthony. And she's like transitioning to like front end development, but so inspiring. Christy Tucker, another one. When I was doing all of my Googling, it was Christy Tucker stuff that was like coming up. So
mine was Christy Tucker and Kara North, Michael Allen.
Yeah.
You were just coming on the scene. So, but
Yeah.
You're here now, and that's what matters.
My stuff really started popping up in like 2020, really.
That's okay.
For the more mainstream stuff. But yeah.
And then something that I want teachers to take away, you got to fill the knowledge gaps. You got to learn the tech tools. As far as tech tools are concerned and how to learn those, I have on my website, I have a list for Articulate Storyline, like a whole bunch of different courses. YouTube's amazing for that. Most of like Articulate, I know their learning community is insanely supportive. Like I've never seen anything quite so supportive. But that's you can, you can type in any question into Google, like how to do this in Articulate Storyline 360, and somebody's asked it, and then there's like 20 million responses. It's pretty cool. So definitely learn the tech stuff. Graphic design, Devlin and I, we've been saying this pretty much the whole time. It's a reoccurring theme is you got to get your graphic design game up and going.
It's got to look good.
It's got to look good.
Yeah.
Now, I hate to admit this, but it's really true, at least for me. And, teachers, we really do something what I like to call the sticker effect. We slap it on a page and we're like, it looks great. When in actuality, that doesn't go over so great. So if you want to see some really great work samples, portfolio samples, I know we just got a question about that. Devlin has a beautiful portfolio. I always tell people to go onto yours, Devlin. I'm like, now you see how he lists out why he did what he did? That's what you're going to do. And they're like, okay. Because it's a fantastic idea. And Thomas, you're so right. Who doesn't like stickers? Well, the hiring managers, not so much. But stickers are good too. Vyond is good. One thing I will caution against with any type of animation, you always want to have a healthy mix between animation and real life figures. And that's because depending on what you're applying for, their style and their brand may call for one or the other, and they want to know that you have skill in both. So when you're thinking about when you're thinking about your portfolio samples, definitely think of how you can incorporate a range.
Yeah, I hardly ever work in like the photorealistic style, but some brands and audiences definitely call more for that. So
yes, real life is photo.
Real life photo, yeah.
Real life photo. Sorry, yeah, that's my teacher talk coming through.
Yeah.
You know, every now and again you get whiffs of the accent.
Mm-hmm. But on the visual design thing, like my biggest advice, it's kind of related to like the slapping the things on the screen. It's like it's okay to just like do that to start maybe, but like the biggest trick to visual design and good layouts is the iteration. So really like get feedback from your friends, your family, like anyone you can. If they're trained in graphic design, even better. Be like, how does this look? What works here? What doesn't? Like look at the craft principles and be like, am I using contrast well here? Like it's a grueling kind of process, especially when you're beginning. Like I came into this field with absolute zero visual design skills. My first project was just things slapped on the screen. And my wife, my girlfriend at the time, I'm like, she was just like naturally better. So I was always asking her like, what's working here? She's like, oh, that's like horrible. Like you need to fix that. So she helped me so much. And now I like kind of have the hang of things. But it's just iteration.
It's definitely iteration. There's an excellent quote out there that says, you know, our perspective, you know, like collaboration, I forget the exact quote, but essentially our perspective is only, or our collaboration or our output is only limited by our perspective, right? And so when you collaborate, that perspective grows and you're able to accomplish so much more.
Yeah.
If you talk to any like really skilled instructional designers, I bet not one of them puts out work without other eyeballs on it. Yeah. Because they know the value of getting that second, third, fourth pair of eyes. I know I do. I mean, I'm not, you know, like instructional designer, but like but you know, I'm getting there. But yeah, to your point, all my stuff was just slapped on the screen too. It's playing around with it. It's trying to figure it out. So definitely get that graphic design in there. And also try not to fish with the wrong bait. Yeah. Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
I see we're coming to a close here. We didn't follow strictly the original format. I didn't go question by question. Like Sara made this easy on us. I'm sure she provided a ton of value, but I am sorry if we didn't get to your question. If there's one takeaway here, I think this is a nice transition. Like you are not in this alone. The community is very supportive. Sara has like a whole organization going on at this point to help you. The community at large is very supportive and helpful. So whether it's working on a project, working on your resume, or just like trying to get the confidence to like really commit to the transition, like we're all kind of in this together. So connect with people here. Like you're supported. We're all here to help each other. So
yeah.
And Sara is a great embodiment of that. So.
Well, thank you. And thank you so much for having me on. This was so exciting. And I'm so sorry we didn't get to more chat questions.
Yeah, I know we touched on a lot, but I think, I got goosebumps when you were even talking about like teacher, you know, the value teachers bring and how it's like, you're valuable, like you're learning things well enough to teach them to other people. I'm like, yes, that's the best thing about teaching. But thank you so much. Yeah, everyone, let's give it up for Sara in the chat. And you know how to, connect on LinkedIn. I'm sure you're open to that.
Oh yeah, please connect, send me a message. It might take me a little bit to get back.
Yeah.
But happy to connect and happy to do one-on-ones if you want to. I think this upcoming month is already pretty booked. Wow. But yeah.
That is quite the offer. You're going to have a lot of people in your inbox.
That's okay. You know, yeah. The more the merrier. So
nice. I love it. I love the attitude. We'll talk to you all soon. Thank you so much, Sara, for doing this. I'm glad we got to chat more. And yeah, I'll see you all soon.
Thanks again. Bye.
Bye, everybody.